After more than 40 years in court, I've learned something that still surprises me. Some people fear the law, other people think the law is a joke, and the ones who think it's a joke are the most dangerous because they don't just break rules, they break people. You ever see a kid with a famous last name act like the world is his personal driveway? If you're curious how I handle that, keep listening and tell me right now, are you on the side of real justice or money fixes it justice? It was January 14th, 2026, Providence Municipal Court, the same room I've sat in for decades. My clerk slid a file onto my bench with a yellow sticker that said, Priority. The case number was 26MC01473, not a parking ticket, not a red light. This one had a heavier charge, operating to endanger with injury, failure to yield, and leaving the scene. The defendant's name was Jaden Marcus Knox, 20 years old. Address in Barrington. 3 prior moving violations paid off like they were nothing. The victim's name was Harold Hal Donnelly, 76, U.S. Army veteran, retired custodian, uses a cane, heart medication, limited income. The report said it happened at 10:47 p.m. on December 22, 2025, on Atwells Avenue near De Pasquale Square. It was cold that night, the kind of cold that makes the street shine. The kind of cold that turns a simple walk into a slow walk. Then I saw the note in the margin. Defendant is son of NFL star Marcus Knox. That last name brings a crowd. Marcus Knox was the kind of athlete who made the news for touchdowns, not trouble. Big contracts, TV ads, Nike deals. People want his autograph. People forgive things faster when they like your highlight reel. But my courtroom is not a stadium. You don't win here with applause. When they brought Jaden in, he walked like the floor belonged to him. He had a black Balenciaga hoodie with the logo loud across his chest, a thick silver chain, a shiny watch that looked like it could signal planes, clean Dior sneakers that never touched a puddle in their life. His jeans were designer too, the kind with perfect rips that cost more than honest fabric. Behind him, his lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, wore a suit that fit like it was born on him. And behind Caldwell, a big man hovered like security, scanning the room like he expected someone to rush Jaden for a selfie. On the other side of the aisle sat Mr. Donnelly, small, thin shoulders inside a brown coat worn at the cuffs. A cane leaned against his chair. His daughter sat beside him, Erin Donnelly, a registered nurse, her badge clipped to her sweater. Her eyes looked tired in the way only nurses' eyes look tired, like sleep is always borrowed. When I entered, Erin stood right away, respectful. Mr. Donnelly tried to stand too, but his knee didn't let him. He made a tight face and sat back down.
Buckle up, guys. Today we're going to witness what happens when privilege walks into a courtroom and thinks it owns the floor. A veteran judge introduces a case that isn't just about a crash, but about character. A 76-year-old Army veteran left broken in a crosswalk. A 20-year-old son of an NFL icon charged with fleeing. The stage is set, and tension fills the air before a single defense is spoken.
I've seen that face before. It's not acting, it's pain. My clerk called, Case 26MC01473, State of Rhode Island versus Jaden Marcus Knox. Jaden didn't stand until his attorney tugged his sleeve. Then he rose slow, chewing gum like the court was a waiting room. I looked at him. Mr. Knox, you are charged with operating a motor vehicle to endanger, leaving the scene, and failure to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk, resulting in serious bodily injury. Do you understand? He said, Yeah, I get it. No, yes, Your Honor, no respect. Just a casual yeah, like we were talking about a parking pass. The prosecutor, Ms. Ramirez, stood. Your Honor, on December 22nd at 10:47 p.m., Mr. Donnelly was lawfully crossing in a marked crosswalk with the pedestrian signal. The defendant, driving a white Lamborghini Urus, entered the intersection at approximately 48 miles per hour in a posted 25. He struck Mr. Donnelly, causing him to fall and strike his head. The defendant did not stop. He did not render aid. He left the scene. The vehicle was located at 2:23 a.m. at a residence in Barrington with fresh damage consistent with the collision. A Lamborghini, a luxury SUV built like a tank, driven like a toy. Ms. Ramirez continued. The victim suffered a fractured hip, fractured wrist, and concussion. He required surgery and ongoing rehabilitation. Medical bills currently exceed $78,400. The state requests conditions including license suspension pending trial and no contact. As she spoke, I watched Jaden. He looked bored. He looked like the words couldn't touch him, like numbers and broken bones were just background noise. I asked Erin if she wanted to speak. She stood, hands folded so tight, her knuckles went pale. Your Honor, my dad is a good man. He served in the Army. He worked as a school custodian for 32 years. He never asked anyone for anything.
The charges are read, and the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. The prosecutor outlines speed, impact, and abandonment. Medical bills climb past $78,000, while the defendant chews gum and answers casually. Then the victim's daughter speaks, measured but shaking, describing headlights, impact, and a father asking why the driver didn't stop. The emotional weight settles heavily across the courtroom.
That night he was walking home from the pharmacy because he likes to do it himself. He's stubborn like that. He said he heard the engine first, loud, like it was angry. Then the lights came and he felt his body lift. Mr. Donnelly stared at the floor, blinking hard. Erin's voice shook. People ran to him. Someone called 911, but the driver didn't stop. My dad kept asking me, why didn't he stop? I didn't know what to say. I turned to Mr. Knox. Do you want to say anything? He shrugged. Look, I didn't mean to hit nobody, but people step out like they own the street. I was trying to get home. It's not like I was hunting the guy. That line landed like a slap. The courtroom murmured. Erin's eyes widened. Mr. Donnelly's face tightened. Not anger, hurt, like he expected decency and got a joke instead. I leaned forward. Mr. Knox, a crosswalk is not a suggestion. It's the law, and a human being is not a speed bump. He rolled his eyes just enough to show me he thought my words were extra. Officer Dana Vega, badge 3117, stepped forward when I asked for the report. At 10:49 p.m., dispatch sent us for a pedestrian struck. Victim was on the ground with head bleeding, confused. Witnesses described a white Lamborghini SUV. One witness saw the driver's face under a streetlight.
When invited to respond, the defendant shrugs off responsibility, suggesting pedestrians act like they own the street. The courtroom reacts sharply. An officer details witness accounts, a partial plate, and the damaged Lamborghini found hours later. The defendant laughs about refusing to step outside for police. What could have been framed as panic now begins to resemble indifference.
Another witness recorded a short video of the vehicle leaving. We got a partial plate, matched it to the defendant's vehicle registered in Barrington. At 2:23 a.m., we located the vehicle at a residence on Nayat Road. Fresh damage to bumper and headlight. Defendant initially refused to come outside. I looked at Jaden. You refuse to come outside? He laughed. Because cops be doing too much. They act like it's a manhunt. Officer Vega held her face still, but her eyes flashed. Caldwell stepped in smoothly. Your Honor, my client maintains this was an accident. He did not realize he made contact. The area was poorly lit. We will challenge speed estimates and identification. I repeated. He didn't realize he struck a man? Caldwell nodded. That is our position at this stage. I turned to Mr. Donnelly. Sir, can you tell me how you're doing? His voice was quiet but steady. Your Honor, I'm trying. I never thought at my age I'd be learning how to walk again. I can't go to the store alone now. My daughter has to help me. I don't want to ruin that young man's life. I just want him to understand what he did. Good people say that. They bleed and still worry about the person who hurt them. Jaden smirked, like it was all too emotional for him. Then Ms. Ramirez added,
Defense counsel argues accident and poor lighting, but the victim speaks with quiet dignity, saying he doesn't want revenge, only understanding. Then the state introduces surveillance footage and phone records. Speed estimates place the vehicle nearly double the limit. The defendant treats license suspension as an inconvenience, reinforcing the perception that consequences are optional in his world.
Your Honor, we have surveillance footage from a restaurant camera on the corner and phone records showing outgoing calls at 10:52 p.m. and 10:55 p.m. Jaden whispered something to Caldwell. They both chuckled. Quiet, but everybody saw it. And that's when I knew we weren't just dealing with an accident. We were dealing with arrogance. So here's a dare for you. Don't look away now. Keep listening, because what he said next in my courtroom made people gasp, and the evidence after that only got uglier. Ms. Ramirez said the traffic unit did a speed estimate based on frame rate and distance markers. Estimated speed, 46 to 50 miles per hour. She also noted the vehicle had a custom exhaust that matched the loud sound witnesses described. I looked at Jaden. 46 to 50 and a 25. Why? He shrugged. It's my car. It's fast. I said, fast is not a defense. Fast is a warning sign. Caldwell tried again. My client is willing to comply with reasonable conditions. I asked Jaden, are you willing to surrender?
The tone shifts dramatically when alcohol presence and refusal of sobriety test surface. Then comes the moment that chills the room. The defendant calls the court cute and minimizes the harm because the victim didn't die. Gasps ripple outward. The judge remains steady, but the moral line has clearly been crossed, and the arrogance is no longer subtle.
Your license pending trial? He sighed like I asked him to carry concrete. Fine, whatever. Then he added, doesn't matter. I don't even drive myself half the time anyway. That little sentence was meant to remind everyone, I live different than you. Ms. Ramirez added, when officers arrived at the Barrington residence, there was alcohol present and the odor of marijuana. The defendant declined field sobriety testing. Jaden snapped, my lawyer told me not to do nothing. Caldwell said, he is exercising his rights. I nodded. He can exercise his rights, and I can set conditions. Then Jaden laughed out loud. I stopped. Why are you laughing, Mr. Knox? He leaned back and said, this court is cute. Like, y'all act like this is serious. Cute. A man broken on the street and he calls the court cute. I kept my voice calm. A 76-year-old man was struck in a crosswalk and left on the ground, and you're calling it cute.
The prosecution unveils social media posts made shortly after the crash, mocking captions and hit and dip legendary. The courtroom recoils. The posts transform recklessness into pride. When pressed, the defendant stumbles through explanations, but the damage is done. What might have been defended as panic now appears as celebration.
He shrugged. He didn't die. Mr. Donnelly flinched like he got hit again. Erin whispered, oh my God, and squeezed her father's arm. Miss Ramirez requested higher bail due to flight risk. Your Honor, the defendant has access to significant resources and private travel. Caldwell objected. Speculative. I asked Jaden, do you have a passport? Yeah. Do you have access to private jets? He smirked. My dad does. And do you understand why that concerns me? He stared at me like I was the one being dramatic. Because you think I'm going to run, I said. Because I think you don't respect consequences. Ms. Ramirez asked to approach with supplemental evidence. My clerk handed me a printout and a USB drive. Ms. Ramirez said, Your Honor, the state became aware of a social media post made by the defendant about 1 hour after the collision. Caldwell's head snapped toward her. What post? Jaden's smile twitched. Ms. Ramirez.
The defendant declares, my dad's going to handle this, suggesting wealth as a remedy. The judge responds firmly that money cannot repair dignity or undo injury. The exchange turns personal as the defendant belittles the court itself. The tension escalates beyond legal arguments into a clash of values, status versus accountability.
Continued. An Instagram story posted at 11:58 p.m. on December 22nd from account EJ Knoxflash, mirror selfie, caption, old heads need to stay home, crosswalk ain't invincible. Also a Snapchat post at 12:04 a.m. stating, hit and dip, legendary. The courtroom made a sound like the room itself was disgusted. Erin covered her mouth. Mr. Donnelly stared at the floor, shaking his head slowly. That wasn't an accident. That was pride. I leaned forward. Mr. Knox, what did you mean by hit and dip? He stuttered. It's slang. Slang for what? I asked. For hitting an old man and leaving him? He swallowed. I didn't mean it like that, I said. Words have weight, especially when they come after harm. Jaden's eyes narrowed, And then he said something that told me exactly who he thought he was. He said, "My dad's going to handle this." The courtroom went still. I asked, "What did you say?" He lifted his chin. "I said my dad's going to handle it." That's what he does. People always want something. He makes it go away. Aaron let out a broken little.
New information introduces a federal investigation tied to the residence where the vehicle was found. The word federal shifts the energy instantly. Connections to illegal betting and narcotics preservation requests darken the landscape. Bail conditions tighten, passport surrender, curfew, drug testing, reflecting concerns far beyond a traffic case.
Laugh because it was so insulting she couldn't hold it. I felt heat in my chest, but I kept my voice even. In this courtroom, your father is not your judge, and your father cannot undo a broken hip. Jaden shrugged. Money can fix a lot. I said, not dignity, not time, not trust. Then he aimed his disrespect at me, and it was personal. He said, "Bro, you act like you're some hero, but you're just a little city judge. No offense. You don't know what it's like to actually have something." There it was. Class, that ugly idea that wealth equals worth. I looked at him and spoke slowly. I grew up with very little. My father came to this country with nothing but his hands. We didn't have what you call something, but we had values, and values are not for sale. He scoffed. Values don't pay bills. I looked at Aaron. Do values pay your bills? She swallowed. No, Your Honor. But they're the only reason I can sleep. Now listen close, because here comes the twist that made this blow up online. You think the Instagram posts were bad? Wait until you hear what connection walked.
After recess, the courtroom fills with reporters. Then the defendant's father enters, accompanied by an FBI agent. The atmosphere changes from spectacle to seriousness. The agent confirms an active investigation. For the first time, the defendant's composure wavers. The presence of federal authority removes the illusion that this is minor.
Into my courtroom next, and why his jokes suddenly stopped. Ms. Ramirez said, "Your Honor, there is another issue. The residence where the defendant was found is connected to an ongoing investigation." Caldwell stiffened. What investigation? Ms. Ramirez said, "A federal task force investigation into illegal sports betting and interstate narcotics distribution. Agents requested preservation of digital evidence. The word federal changes faces. It doesn't matter how rich you are. Federal means the floor isn't soft anymore."
The father stands, not to shield his son, but to apologize. He admits shame and responsibility, acknowledging that money was never enough. He tells his son he will face the consequences. It is the first moment the defendant responds with humility rather than deflection, signaling a possible crack in his armor.
Jaden blinked fast. Caldwell's mouth opened slightly like he wanted to speak, but couldn't find air. Officer Vega added, "The residence owner is Trevor Sykes." I knew that name from the way you know a storm is coming. You don't need the rain to start to feel it. I asked Jaden, "What were you doing there at 2:23 a.m.? He snapped, "Nothing, just chilling." I asked, "Are you involved in sports betting?" He laughed nervously. "Everybody bets." I said, "Not everybody. And not like this." I set conditions: surrender passport, no drive.
The judge contrasts honor and service with designer clothes and social media mockery. The courtroom listens as values are placed on trial alongside the charges. The defendant, once defiant, lowers his gaze. The atmosphere feels less combative and more instructive, as if the room is witnessing a turning point.
Driving, curfew, random drug tests, no contact with the victim. And I set bail high enough to be real. Caldwell called it excessive. I said, "Excessive is leaving a veteran bleeding on the street and bragging about it online." Jaden muttered, "My dad can pay it." I stared at him. That's the problem. You think a wallet is a conscience. We took a short recess. When we came back, the courtroom looked different. More people, more whispering, a few reporters. Fame attracts attention, like sugar attracts ants. Then the door opened, and Marcus Knox walked in. Tall, strong, expensive black coat, no smile. His face looked heavy, like he was carrying something he never trained for. Behind him was another attorney, and behind that attorney was a man in a suit with a badge clipped to his belt. My bailiff leaned in and whispered, FBI. The room went quiet in a new way.
Conditions are imposed deliberately. Passport and license surrendered. Strict curfew. 200 hours of service at a VA medical center. Social media restrictions, and written apology to be read aloud. Each requirement connects directly to the harm caused. Bail is set high enough to matter. The message is unmistakable. Accountability must be felt.
Not curiosity, fear. Marcus sat in the front row, eyes locked on his son. There was no pride there, just disappointment. Ms. Ramirez asked for the agent to speak briefly on conditions. I allowed it. He introduced himself on the record as Special Agent James Harlan, badge ID 5K219. Calm voice, no drama. That's how real authority sounds. He said, Your Honor, without discussing sensitive details, I can confirm an active federal investigation involving the Barrington residence. We seek preservation of the defendant's digital devices and accounts. His social media includes references to drops and parlays and tags individuals under surveillance. Caldwell looked like he'd just...
The victim speaks again, not with anger, but with dignity. He describes lying on the pavement thinking of his daughter, getting another hospital call. His words penetrate deeper than any legal argument. The defendant's composure breaks, tears surface. For the first time, the human cost outweighs ego in the room.
Realized the ground under him wasn't ground. Jaden's eyes darted to his father. Then Marcus Knox stood and asked to speak. I nodded. You may. Marcus took a breath, and I could see he was fighting emotion. Your Honor, I'm Marcus Knox. I'm his father. I'm not here to argue the law. I'm here because I'm ashamed. I watched the video. I read the posts. That's not how I raised him. Or maybe I was gone too much, chasing the game, thinking money was enough. That sentence hurt to hear, because it was honest. Marcus turned toward Mr. Donnelly. Sir, I'm sorry. I'm sorry my son did this. I'm sorry he left you there. That's not a mistake. That's cowardice. Mr. Donnelly nodded once. He didn't smile. He didn't perform forgiveness. He just accepted the apology like a man who has learned life is not fair. Marcus turned to his son. You're going to face this. You are not hiding behind me. Do you understand? Jaden whispered. Yeah, Marcus said. Say it right. Jaden swallowed. Yes, I understand. That was the first time he sounded like a citizen instead of a celebrity's shadow. I leaned forward. Mr. Knox, I said to Marcus, your son's life has been soft where it should have been firm. Marcus nodded. I know. I looked at Jaden. You want to talk about having something? Mr. Donnelly has honor, he has service. He has a daughter who works nights as a nurse taking care of strangers and then had to do it for her own father because you couldn't stop your car. Erin's eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. She just listened. I continued, and you walked in here wearing Balenciaga and Dior, driving a Lamborghini Urus, posting jokes like pain is content. Jaden stared down at his shoes. His foot tapped once, then stopped. I said, some people will call what I'm about to do harsh. Some will call it fair. I call it necessary. Caldwell started to speak. I held up my hand. Counsel, I'm speaking. I turned to Jaden. You're going to repeat these conditions back to me. I said them slow, like nails going into wood. 1, you surrender your passport today. 2, you surrender your driver's license today. You do not drive anything anywhere. 3, you have an 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew monitored. 4, you complete 200 hours of community service before your next court date. Jaden looked up, confused. Where? I said. At the VA Medical Center in Providence. You will assist with approved tasks, wheelchairs, supplies, cleaning, whatever they tell you, and you will do it quietly. Erin made a small sound, like relief mixed with shock. Mr. Donnelly's eyes widened. I continued. 5, you attend a victim impact panel and provide proof. 6, no social media posting of any kind. No Instagram stories. No Snapchat. No TikTok. You use...
As court concludes, the focus shifts to principle. The viral moment becomes not the bail amount, but the reminder that a wallet is not a conscience. The judge reflects on the crosswalk as a promise of protection, and the courtroom as a mirror of character. Privilege met accountability, and dignity prevailed. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.